Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the sub-seasonal to seasonal forecast for energy winter outlook webinar. In the next 30 minutes, our expert will guide you through the analysis of the past prediction released by the decision support tool for the previous season. Then they will present you the forecast for the coming winter season. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. However, you can pose questions at any time using the chat. I'm Ilaria Vigo, and today's speakers are Jürgen Ledo and Andrea Manrique, climate prediction researchers at Barcelona Supercomputing Center. Please, Andrea, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. We are going to begin with a brief analysis of how the decision support tool has been performing. It was launched in June, and we're going to see some events that happened during this summer. So this we're showing here an evolution of the temperatures for the city of Paris. As you know, this summer it was badly affected by extreme temperatures. In fact, on the 25th of July, there were some record-breaking temperatures registered in Paris. So this is temperature from reanalysis. So in blue, we can see the climatological mean. There are weekly means from the beginning of June until September. And in black, we can see the temperatures that happened this year, 2019. The lines are weekly averages, and the dashed line indicates the daily temperatures. So we can see how the 25th of July, there was this extreme peak corresponding to those temperatures we mentioned. If we look at the weekly averages, we can see how there were several episodes of extreme temperatures where the weekly average was well above the 90th percentile of the climatological records.
Yeah, so here on the left, you can see a map of the temperature anomalies for July 2019. Okay, so thanks. So you can see that there is a pattern of positive temperature anomalies for July 2019 in this map on the left. Affecting mostly the British Isles and especially France, also parts of the Iberian Peninsula and the Mediterranean. And these temperature increases have a strong impact in the energy sector as well. For instance, I want to discuss as an example, what happened in France during last July. On the graph here on the right, you can see in blue the daily mean temperatures during that month. This is from RTE, the French TSO, and you can see that these peaking temperatures that Andrea was mentioning previously. And the black line is the daily demand, and you can see that during the high during this high temperature peak, the demand also increased a lot due to electricity demand for cooling. And indeed, a new peak demand was reached in France network, 59 gigawatts, which is the highest value that has ever been reached in France. Also, the problem was even worse because some nuclear power plants had to shut down because of environmental constraints. Nuclear power plants need fresh water to cool down the reactors, but they are not allowed to throw water above certain thresholds. So sometimes where there is excessive heat, if the water river that they use is too hot, they cannot use it anymore to protect the life in the river. And so what happened in this event is that several nuclear power plants in France had to stop. There was high demand, low nuclear generation, and that impacted energy prices, which were very high during that episode. So clearly this is a case where seasonal or subseasonal forecasts of temperature would be very helpful to anticipate those problems and so on.
So this was the analysis of the event. Now we're going to have a look at what the forecasts available in the DST were indicating. So to start, this is a forecast for the week for the 22nd to the 28th of July. There are weekly averages. And the DST was indicating normal conditions, and for the upper tercile, which is what actually happened, we had a 33% of probabilities 4 weeks in advance. For the next week, the 4th of July, the DST was indicating a lower percentage. For the upper tercile, it was 23, and it was actually indicating 50%, but the skill was clearly lower. 1 week later, 2 weeks before the target week, we were already seeing the indication of this warm event, and the probability went up to 44% for the upper tercile with a skill of 10%. And then 1 week before the event, we can see how the predictions were clearly indicating a 98% of probability of this of temperatures being in the upper tercile.
Okay, that was for subseasonal, and now for seasonal. So trying to predict the July anomalies, we will have a look at the forecasts issued 1 month before in June. The first thing that you can see in the map is that there is a lot of areas that do not show any forecast. This is because we have masked the areas where the forecasts have no skill. And yeah, in this case, we can see that June forecasts for July are not very skillful in terms of temperature. However, if we look here in the Iberian Peninsula and the Mediterranean, where there is some skill, we can see that the forecasts already anticipated high probability of above normal temperatures, also in this point in Italy, but not in this region in the south of the UK and in the west of France. So yeah, from this single event, we can see that maybe the seasonal was not very helpful, but also it's important to remember that probabilistic forecasts cannot be evaluated from a single event, because what we are giving is the probability of different options, of different categories for temperature in this case. So the fact that there is a high probability for one category does not prevent the other category from really occurring. And if we want to make an evaluation that is fair, we need to look at a long record of events, and that is what is available in the decision support tool in the skill estimates that we have in the DST. Okay, so now we can move to the actual forecasts for the next month, and for the subseasonal forecast for the next 4 weeks, and the seasonal forecast for the next 3 months. Andrea will start with the subseasonal forecasts. Okay, so this is just as a very fast reminder, the DST website. Here you can, the first thing that you need to do when you enter is check this last prediction button, so that you make sure that you have looking at the latest predictions. And here you can see the forecast for the next 3 weeks and for the next 3 months. You can enable or disable the extreme events here, and you can filter the skill here on the left with the panel, and select a skills ratio that fits your needs. However, to better discuss the forecast, we thought it would be a good idea to go through the outlooks that we publish once per month in in our website. Here in the s2s4e.eu website, you have the outlooks for the latest month. It is issued right after the 15th of each month. So what we are going to do is review the outlook that we prepared the 18th of November. Okay, so that is the information that it was available.
Well, these are the subseasonal forecast issued last Thursday. So this one have been updated. So we're going to begin with temperature forecast. So for this week, very high probabilities of above normal terrestrial core temperature are expected in Central and Southern Europe. And then the following week, this high probability of above normal temperatures is expected more towards the western part of Europe, whereas in Eastern Europe, there are indications of lower than normal temperatures. For the week of the 9th to the 15th of December, there are lower than normal temperatures expected in the North Sea, and normal high probabilities of normal temperatures for this time of the year over most of the European continent. For the week of 16th to 22nd of December, again, we can see this high probability of above normal temperatures, especially in North and Baltic seas. We move on now to wind speed forecast. We can see how for this week we expect high probabilities of above normal wind speed in France, Germany, and all along western parts of the European continent. For the week of the 2nd to the 8th of December, we can see high probability of lower than normal wind speed in the Mediterranean region, and higher than normal wind speeds in the central to north part of Europe. Moving on to the next week, we can see here a pattern of high probability for Scandinavian countries, especially Finland and north of Russia. And for the week of 16 to 22nd of December, there's no clear pattern of wind speeds for this week. Now to precipitation forecast. This week we can see high probabilities of higher than normal precipitation in most of the central parts of Europe, especially west and north of France. And there's an indication of drier than normal conditions in the western Mediterranean. The week of the 2nd to the 8th of December, precipitation-wise, there's higher than normal probabilities of lower precipitation in the northeast and also in the Atlantic area. The next weeks, we can see in the Scandinavian countries high probability of below normal precipitation, and for the last week, 15th to 22nd of December, still we can see some signs of dry conditions expected. We move on now to solar radiation. For this week, there are high probabilities of below normal radiation in most of Europe. And for the week of the 2nd to the 8th of December, there is an indication of lower than normal radiation towards the central north part of Europe and higher than normal in the Mediterranean area. For the week of the 9th to the 15th of December, the indication is showing high probability of lower than normal solar radiation. And for the last week, we can see again lower than normal solar radiation in the north and central parts of Europe, and higher than normal solar radiation in the Mediterranean countries.
Okay, now we move to the seasonal forecasts for December, January, and February. We start with temperature, and what we can see on the first side is that both November and December, we see high probabilities of above normal temperature in Italy, in Eastern Mediterranean, and also in January in the British Isles and the Atlantic facade. Whereas in February, the scale is not very good over Europe. Only we can see a pattern of increased probabilities of below normal temperature in Western France. Now, if we look at wind speeds, we also see a very high probability of above normal winds for January, which is the month that we also showed a high probability of above normal temperatures. This is a very common feature in winter that is typically associated to positive phases of the NAO, with high wind speeds that bring warmer temperature and also bring a lot of precipitation. And that's indeed what we expect also in the British Isles, above normal precipitations in this region. Let's go back again to wind speed for a while. Just for December, Central Europe is showing some patterns of increased probability of below normal wind speeds. Whereas in February, we still see some indication of above normal wind speed conditions in Germany, Poland, and around the Baltic Seas. Then moving to precipitation for December, we can expect a very dry period in the countries bordering the Baltic Sea. Those triangles are indeed the indications of risk of drought. So there is increased probability for the precipitation of being below the 10th percentile of the historical values. So yeah, indication of risk of a very dry event here. Also, you can see there is some risk in over France and in other parts of Europe, but I think the striking pattern is here on the north. For January, we already commented the positive anomalies or precipitation anomalies are expected in the British Isles. And for February, we can see also forecasts of increased precipitation in Central Europe, Central and Northern Europe. We move now to solar radiation. We can see in December risk of very low radiation in parts of Europe, especially in Denmark, in Poland, and parts of the Iberian Peninsula. For January, the radiation will be likely very low in the British Isles and also in Scandinavia. Whereas for February, we see also a pattern of very low radiation or below high probabilities of below normal radiation over Germany, which is a country which has a lot of solar power installed. So yeah, with that, we finish the outlook for DJF.
Thank you, Jurens. Thank you, Andrea. All the forecasts presented and more are available in the decision support tool that you can access from the link at the bottom of this slide. Please notice that this is still a beta version and we are working on improvements until the end of the project, so please feel free to send us your feedbacks. Now we will take a minute break and we will come back to you with the Q&A session. Here we are back with some questions. So the first question is from Laurent Debout, and he's asking, can you please remind us against which reanalysis the seasonal forecasts are validated bias adjusted? It's ERA 5 or NCEP or any other?
Okay, so the reanalysis that has been used for the analysis of the heat wave event, so the images that were shown in the first part, this reanalysis, the Japanese reanalysis, JRA 55, and this is because this is the reanalysis that is updated more frequently, so we were able to get this information quite quickly. In the case of the DST, all the evaluation, so skill and the calibration of the forecast is performed with ERA 5 reanalysis.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a question from Michael Christoph, and he's asking, why do you see December not quite warm at the tool?
Okay, maybe we can go to the tool. December would be temperature. December would be the next month. Yeah, there is indication of above normal temperatures in this region, in the Western Mediterranean and also in the Eastern Mediterranean. So I would say in the Mediterranean bordering countries, there is high probabilities of above normal temperatures. However, maybe I was not clear enough. We cannot see anything over France, Germany, Poland, Denmark, because the skill is masked. But if we click here on the view wall, we can see all the forecasts. This is dangerous because using forecasts in places that are skinful is not a good idea. But anyway, we can see the forecasts, and we can see that there is increased probabilities of above normal temperature for December as well in France, in parts of the UK, with, for example, in this grid point I clicked in France, 40% of probabilities of above normal temperature. So there is, yeah, indication of above normal, of forecast that gives prevalence to above normal temperatures, but this should be used with care due to the lack of a skill.
Thank you, Lorenz. So we have time, I think, for one more question. We can go with the question from Fabio, who's asking, week 1 of December has had a big dip in temperatures in both ECWMF and GFS models, particularly in Germany and France. They are now forecasted well below seasonal. Can you comment on that? And how fast would the sub-seasonal model react to these updates? Can this lower the skill of our forecast? And can skill be used in this case as an indication of loss of confidence in a certain distribution of outcomes?
Okay, so referring to this question, this system, the sub-seasonal system we are showing is NCEP CFS, and it's in the DST. It's being updated every Thursday. So the information that has been shown today is from Thursday's launch. So for that particular week, we can see also low temperatures more towards the east, not so much over Germany and France. And of course, if this is something that has changed since Thursday, it's not shown in our forecast yet. It will be interesting to check next Thursday if our forecast is also indicating this dip for that week. So to the question of how fast can our forecast react, that's on a weekly basis, because that's how often we update it. And in terms of if this is indicating lower skill, that there are some models indicating different signals, we have to emphasize that what we are showing are weekly averages. So there is different type of information of what's shown on a medium range forecast.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. So thank you everyone also for attending our webinar. You can follow us through additional services as well. We will have further webinars. We offer monthly sub-seasonal to seasonal outlooks that are published on our website. We have also case studies demonstrating the potential of forecasts in the decision support tool. And you can also find the reports on our website. We will share the slides of the presentation. Thank you for joining us, and have a nice evening. Have a nice day.